When most people think of the underworld, they think of Hades, the god draped in shadow, brother to Zeus and ruler of the dead, his realm carved from silence and sealed away from Olympus. But the truth is, he wasn't the first, because long before Olympus rose, before the Titans fell, before even light existed, there was something else, a presence, a force, a god. But this being didn't rule with a scepter or a crown, or sit on a throne. It simply was. A suffocating darkness so complete that even the gods feared it. And while time is trying to erase it from memory, buried beneath the myths of younger, more palatable deities, its shadow still lingers. This is the story of the one who ruled before Hades, the one who gave birth to death, to night, to fate itself. The one who was the darkness. Hey everyone, welcome to Mythology Explained. According to Hesiod, one of ancient Greece's most influential poets, the primordial deities were the first beings to emerge at the dawn of creation. They came before the Titans, before Olympus, and before the world had form or structure. The very first of these deities, according to Hesiod's account, was chaos, not a being in the traditional sense, but a vast, formless void from which all others would arise. And from chaos came several key figures, including Gaia, Earth, Tartarus, the Abyss, Eros, Desire, Nyx, Night, and Erebus, the personification of darkness. There's general agreement across ancient sources that Erebus and Nyx were direct offspring of chaos, unlike the more debated origins of Gaia or Eros. This places Erebus among the earliest and most essential forces in Greek cosmology. And while later figures like Hades would be assigned rulership over the underworld, Erebus represented something more foundational. He wasn't simply a ruler of a place. He was a force of nature, a presence that existed wherever light did not. Together with Nyx, Erebus fathered two contrasting deities, Ether, the bright upper air of the heavens, and Hemera, the goddess of daylight. But of night were born Ether and Day, whom she conceived and bore from union in love with Erebus. But unlike Nyx, who is credited with giving rise to many other abstract deities like Thanatos, Hypnos, and the Fates, Erebus remains a more singular and static figure. He is not associated with a wide lineage or dramatic myths, but rather with the constant, ever-present darkness from which all things emerged, and to which all things eventually return. In early cosmology, Erebus wasn't confined to a throne or palace. He wasn't a ruler in the traditional sense. Instead, he was the underworld, or more accurately, the darkness from which the idea of the underworld would eventually take shape. These early references show us something crucial. Before the underworld was a kingdom with regions and laws, it was a condition, a realm of raw, undefined shadow, and Erebus was its essence. Only later would this space be reshaped, divided into places like Elysium, Tartarus, and the Asphodel Meadows. Only later would gods like Hades sit upon thrones and judge souls. But in the beginning, there were no gates, no rivers, no rulers. There was only Erebus, and long before Hades became its ruler, that space belonged to him. In time, however, the underworld took on new meaning. What was once a vast and undefined realm of shadow became more structured, imagined as a multi-layered domain with gates, rivers, and regions, ruled by a single god, Hades, son of Cronus and brother to Zeus and Poseidon. After the Titanomachy, the war between the Olympians and the Titans, the three brothers divided the cosmos. Zeus took the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. With this new cosmic order, Hades became the official ruler of the realm of the dead, presiding over souls, overseeing judgment, and maintaining the balance between life and death. But this version of the underworld, organized, bounded, and governed, came after, because long before Hades took his throne, the realm of the dead was formless. As mythology evolved and became more systematized, Erebus began to fade from prominence. gradually replaced by more personified and structured deities like Hades. And with this shift came new associations. Where Erebus once embodied formless, all-consuming darkness, Hades became a god of hierarchy and control, a sovereign with a kingdom and a throne. But the two shouldn't be conflated. Hades ruled the dead, Erebus was the dark. In Hesiod's theogony, Erebus is introduced not only as a primordial god, but as the very substance of shadow itself. From chaos came forth Erebus and black night, but of night were born ether and day, whom she conceived and bore from union in love with Erebus. Here, Erebus is not merely a backdrop. He's a progenitor of light itself. His union with Nyx gives rise to brightness, suggesting that light in Greek myth is born from darkness, not the other way around. And in Homer's Odyssey, Erebus is treated as both a deity and a location. When Odysseus performs his necromantic ritual to speak with the dead, he is told, there, into Erebus, the spirits of the dead came swarming. Centuries later, Virgil echoed this idea in the Aeneid, referring to the silent shores of Erebus, a place of passage before the souls are ferried deeper into the afterlife. And now they gain the very entrance, the shadowy realms of Erebus, where the way of no return lies open. The idea that Erebus was both a deity and a space speaks to how deeply embedded he was in the ancient Greek and Roman imagination. He was not a god in the Olympian sense, not one to be worshipped, prayed to, or depicted in sculpture, but he was ever present, a layer of the cosmos itself. And long before Hades was imagined as a somber king on a subterranean throne, Erebus was already there. But the role of Erebus didn't remain fixed across time. As mythology branched and deepened, different traditions interpreted him in different ways. For example, in Orphic cosmology, a mystical and esoteric branch of ancient Greek religion, Erebus takes on a more symbolic role. He's no longer simply the offspring of chaos, but sometimes appears as a byproduct of Nyx, or as a dark cosmic boundary existing before the birth of Phanes, the radiant creator god. In this tradition, Erebus isn't just primordial darkness. He represents the unconscious veil that must be pierced for divine light to emerge. Later philosophical interpretations, particularly among the Neoplatonists and Stoics, viewed Erebus not as a literal deity or place, but as a state of being, a metaphor for ignorance, for unconsciousness, or for the material darkness that separates the soul from divine truth. In this sense, Erebus became a stand-in for the void, the spiritual blindness one must overcome in pursuit of knowledge and light. But across all these interpretations, one idea remains consistent. Erebus is not a god who rules, but a force that permeates. Whether mythological, metaphysical, or poetic, he is always there, at the edge of light, at the start of death, and in the silence before creation. Because Erebus was never meant to be seen, only felt in the spaces where all other gods fall silent. And that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, please leave your video requests down in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, before there was light, there was shadow, and before any god dared to rule, Erebus had already been.